Hello, everybody, and welcome to Castle Escapes and Clones. Our chat with Castle Escapes and Clones. We discuss everything in the Disney universe. We are so happy to have you here. We see Cal is first. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have a very robust conversation about Spider-Man: No Way Home. We three have just returned from a viewing, and we are going to be talking spoilers. It's just too hard to talk about this film without talking about spoilers. So
Yeah.
please, I beg you, if you are out there and haven't commented and haven't seen this film, please go see this film before you watch this stream, because you can always watch it in replay. But right now, we are going to be talking spoilers, and we just feel like you shouldn't be spoiled during this movie. It's just too
Unless uh, unless you don't care.
I mean, if you
I
don't
mean,
care,
Yeah.
unless you don't care, but I feel
It'd
still
be a
like
better
you should.
experience
it'd
if
be
you saw
definitely
the
be
It's a
better
better experience.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yes,
Cal, we hope that you have seen this film.
if you're still here.
All right. Well, also, if you haven't subscribed already, we would love it if you would subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and do like this post. Take a moment to just hit that like button for us. That would be great. So, with that, I'm turning it over to my cousin and co-pilot Rich. Oh, and I should also mention we are here with our friend Thom. Um,
Hola.
and so, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, as Lauren said, we all literally just came back from. I think Lauren a little bit earlier than we did.
Mhm. By 20
But
minutes.
yeah, like we Tom and I saw it together, and as we're leaving the theater, even told him like, "Don't talk to me."
Yeah. No, I was literally going to say, "Well, what'd you think?" And you're like,
Nope,
"Save it for
save
the
it. So this
for
is
the
gonna
thing."
be the first time I know what Tom thinks, what Lauren thinks, and then this
Mhm.
same for them.
Yeah.
So let's go this quick, brief, like like
Like in a
the
nutshell.
the elevator pitch, 30
Mhm.
seconds. What did you think? Let's start with Lauren.
I loved it. I mean, I cried,
Oh my
and
god.
I cried in on so many levels of that film. So that's really, I loved it.
Tom.
Yes, I loved it as well. I got misty eyed. Well, more than misty eyed, more than once. Uh, I there was a little part of me that was scared that it wasn't gonna live up to literally everyone's expectations, but it
Mhm.
totally did.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm still processing everything that we saw,
Mhm.
because a lot happens, but it's not a mess, which was nice. I was worried with all the rumors that
Right.
Toby and everyone, it would be all these characters. I was worried it'd be with just a mess. Like, okay, there's too much going on, but
Mhm.
no. Considering that Marvel, I now realizing that I think Marvel has the whole multiple character thing down to a science now, without it
Yeah.
being a mess. Uh, no, I feel like a dork worrying about that. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I think they know what they're doing. Having just insane, massive ensembles, but have it still work in the story's favor. I just, now I'm sure we're all thinking this way. We're like, okay, where do we go to from here?
Yep.
So it's especially considering how it ends, which I wasn't expecting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it has me again more excited because you would think that after Endgame, you're like, okay, well, that's our peak. Okay, whatever now. But no, it's still they're revving up for something big again, and I
Yeah.
feel like it'll be bigger. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
I hated it.
That was terrible.
Oh my god. What is this? Garbage.
I
No,
know.
same as you. Like there was so much writing on this. I want to think not even writing on it, but it was like there was so much talk and speculation, you know. And I thought, I don't know if it's going to be able to live up to everybody's. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be, actually as good as it was. Like, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be as good and emotional as it is.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be as emotional.
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
Darn you, Marvel. I mean, it is a Disney, well, Disney Sony, but whatever. But yeah, my initial, like, I didn't feel how long that movie was, right? And it was like what, two almost over 2.5 hours long, right?
Something like
2 hours and like almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't feel its length.
yeah.
No,
But it didn't go by too quick either.
it could have gotten longer for me.
There's, yeah. But yeah, I like everyone. I loved it. You know, it's always good when you're in a theater and you hear people clap. And people did.
Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way. The one, like, I think we all kind of knew that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to be in it.
Right.
There was rumors about Charlie Cox.
Yeah.
And we get hit with that right away. How did you guys react? Well, I kind of knew how Tom reacted because I was there.
You're right next to me.
How did you, Lauren, like react when
Charlie Cox came
Matt
on.
Murdock was on screen in an MCU movie?
I was screaming. Olivia was telling me afterwards. He goes, "I could just hear you going, oh my god!"
Yeah, my reaction, I went, huh? Like what? Like, so I didn't watch every season of Daredevil. I started watching the first season. I got like almost to the end, but then Marvel said, "No, we're done. We're no more Netflix Marvel stuff." And I was like, "All right, well, I guess." And I just stopped watching it. But I got enough, thankfully, to know who he is and to appreciate him showing up on the big screen.
Right.
Yeah.
I was, you know, it's one of the things, like, it's one of the rumors, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if all of them are gonna pan out because there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it to be within the first like 10 minutes of this movie. Like, there he is,
Yeah.
and he looks exactly the same. It's been a couple of years, but like, it felt like him from the series, you know, his acting and whatever. And now I'm just like, are we gonna
Yeah.
are we gonna see more? Are we like,
Yeah.
before we go on with this, how far in Hawkeye have you gotten, Tom?
Unfortunately, just the first episode.
Son
Oh,
Mhm.
man.
Yeah, well, as you know, been trying to catch up, but a lot of stuff's been coming up for me, work-wise and all that, and personal stuff. So
Work schmirk.
work schmirk. Yeah. So I did. So unfortunately, I didn't get that far, but I will. Even though I didn't get around to, especially watching the two Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but that movie has been spoiled so much for me over the years that I feel like I don't really need to watch it.
The Andrew Garfield
At least not.
ones?
Yes, like I knew about her. I knew about the death. I even knew about, you know, how essentially the origins of those villains already, like just through memes and stuff like that, and also my younger friends seeing it when it came out, and then them telling me later on everything that happens in it. The consensus of that has been split. Like, people either like those movies or despise them with this weird utter hatred. I'm like,
You
okay,
know,
it's just
I
a
don't
movie.
despise them.
But
Like,
yeah, so
I mean, like, the Sam Raimi ones -3. I love.
it's interesting because one of my friends said that they love the third Spider-Man, the third Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and I was like,
Did you
"You're
say,
the first
how does it feel
person-"
to be wrong?
Yeah, well, they always like they told me that yes, they know there's a lot of issues with it, but they still enjoy it, at least on a certain, not compared to the first two. Like, yeah, like yeah, it's dumb, but I still enjoyed it. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Then they made a comparison to me, like, well, it's like you with The Last Jedi. I'm like, no,
No.
I don't think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I
No.
mean, but even that movie, because it's kind of turned into a meme over the years, has also been more or less spoiled for me. So I'm like, I'll get around to it when I get around to it.
You know, these are still comic book movies, so I like even the grand scheme of things with this movie. You know, it's the ending should have been a little bit predictable, just on a comic book fan level, and who Spider-Man is in this in the comic books. I mean, like the scenario kind of did happen in the comic books, right? So we'll talk about that later. But you know, I forget where I was going with this. And Matt Murdock, and the fact that you've not finished or caught up with Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So I mean, Hawkeye is still new, so I'm not gonna spoil that for everybody because
Right.
it just
we're in the middle of it. Yeah.
This came out this
the
week.
fifth. Well, for one, the 5th episode came out. That means next week's episode is the last episode of Hawkeye.
Oh, they're only doing.
They're only
episodes.
6.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh wow.
And I'm just like, what? But
I know.
now I'm wondering, you know, Matt Murdock is established as a lawyer in the MCU. We have a series coming out called She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And it could be arguable who's the more famous lawyer. I think Daredevil came out first. Or I don't know. Actually, I don't know on the timeline. But with She-Hulk and Daredevil are the two lawyers that I kind of know. So do you think we're going to see him again in She-Hulk?
Well, that's where I thought, you know, I had heard rumors that he was going to show up on this film, but I was like, oh, where's he going to show up, or like how? So I actually just put it out in my mind that he could show up in this film, and my first thought was that he would show up in She-Hulk.
Right.
So I still think that it's going to happen. But yeah, it was a complete surprise to me when he came out. I had a visceral reaction to his appearance because I kind of just put it out of my mind that he'd be in this film and that his first appearance would be in She-Hulk.
It's funny because at the end of Far From Home, one of the first things I thought after that was like, he's going to need a lawyer, right? Because at the end of Spider-Man 2, MCU Spider-Man 2, like that's when J. Jonah Jameson outs him, and I'm like, he's gonna lawyer up, he's gonna have to, and I was like, and I don't know if we knew then we'd have a She-Hulk, but I was like, we have, and I think there was an ambiguity with the Marvel TV Netflix shows. Like, are they part of the MCU? Are they not? Is it kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it's like it was at one point, but now it's really not, kind of
became
thing?
its own thing.
Yeah, they did so much time travel and reality warping and all this stuff that I just don't think that they are part of this universe anymore.
And here's the thing. So with Matt Murdock specifically, and only Matt Murdock, like, do you think it's the same continuity as the TV show, or is this now, this is the MCU proper, but it's still Matt Murdock played by Charlie Cox?
I think it's going to be a soft reboot. I think he's not going to be as intense as he was in the series.
Netflix.
Yeah, I think that they're going to balance him a little bit more with the humor and make him a little more fun. I think that he'll still have a grittiness, but I think that they're going to kind of lighten him up a little bit.
Yeah, because from what I saw, it got. I just remember watching that because remember you told me a couple years ago, like, you should watch it. I'm like, all right, and I started watching it, and I was blown away by how much darker it was compared to the movies. I was like, I had the same question, like, is this connected with the actual MCU? So that's what that was my big, like, reaction, like Like we were in the theater. I went like what? Like like I just wasn't
Yeah.
expecting him to show up. And I was just thinking I was wondering the same thing after we got out, because that was one of the first things I was going to ask you. I was like, so is this official, or then essentially what we're all talking about right now, like, okay, so it's like a new version of him, but they're just using the same actor, but it looks literally exactly like him from the show. It isn't like they changed him up a little bit. Like, no, verbatim, glasses, every little detail. I'm like, that's him. So I'm like, so yeah, I'm wondering the same thing. Are they going to live him up, get rid of the grit, or just kind of add some livelihood to it, which I feel like they kind of did already in that one scene.
I mean,
But
I don't know how far you got, but there is still levity
yeah,
in those shows.
There is, but I don't think that it doesn't have that trademark humor
Yeah.
that Marvel is known for, and I think that they are going to include some of that with him,
Yeah. I mean,
which he did show
yeah.
with a brick.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
like how I like how Peter asked, like, how would you do that? He's like, I'm a really good lawyer.
I'm a lawyer. That was funny.
Like, honestly, I think we can probably go on about Matt Murdock for a while, but let's move to the villains. Let's go with the villains and their introduction. Well, no, let's go before that. Let's talk about the Doctor Strange thing. And Peter going to Doctor Strange and that whole situation.
Yeah.
All in general, like even to the end, like, because we know that the multiverse is a thing. I didn't expect it to be kind of wrapped up. You know what I mean? Like it kind of wrapped up, and so I'm like wondering like what is going to happen in Doctor Strange, because nothing really that I saw in this movie told me that something else happened, and that's why Doctor Strange has a thing with the multiverse in his own movie.
Right. Well, yeah, it's interesting because I was trying to dig clues at the very end.
Yeah.
When they had the Doctor Strange trailer.
The montage, whatever.
I mean, it was basically a trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a teaser trailer.
Yeah, it was
Pretty
a teaser
much.
trailer. And yeah, I was just trying to figure out where is it going to go. It was nice to see Wanda. And I don't know, there's always something happens in the universe where chaos happens, and so
Right.
I'm sure that they are going to explain.
Well, yeah. I just thought
what happens.
It would be a little bit more connected to everything,
right?
Where I think we're just getting bits and pieces of something.
But I think it probably is connected, and that I don't know, maybe something in that spell still went wrong, or
yeah, that's what
something.
I think we got a taste of what. I mean, well, very much like in, all that when more and more villains show up, like at first we only really get the two, but then we found out later on that the other two Spider-Man show up, and then all that. I feel like there's a possibility that more things got through, and we're going to see more of that.
More things did get through, but they were all still sent back.
But possibly something that got through but was able to, I mean, I'm just speculating here, resist somehow that way back, something that remained. I mean, considering the first I mean, I didn't see the Venom movies because I heard they were terrible, but now I have to. So considering that his character was sent back, but a little bit was left behind and wasn't sent back with it, I feel like is another potential clue that there are exceptions to that.
Right. And the Venom movies are, I'll just say that they're fun. Are they good? No, but they're fun.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, I also felt
well,
that way about Spider-Man 3. So
yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, and
I
I'm
find
okay
it
with that.
fun,
Yeah,
even though I don't find it good.
yeah, and
Does that
I
make
mean,
sense?
no, it makes perfect sense. I feel the same way about well, I know Rich and I feel the same way. Well, probably all three of us feel the same way about Rise of Skywalker. It's fun, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not great. It's not great, but
Yeah.
I'll watch it depending on the circumstance.
Right.
I mean, I still like even though like people seem to not like the Andrew Garfield movies. I did say like, okay, well, I'm not watching them in time for this, but I will get around to watching them. So, and I'm okay with
I
that.
like the Andrew
Yeah,
Garfield
I
movies.
actually like them as well. I
Yeah.
don't know why they got panned so much. I mean, Andrew Garfield was, I think, fun Spider-Man. It was
And
just
I
he
like
was
him,
too old
and
for.
I like him as an actor a lot. So like that's one of the
Yeah.
things that gets me to like, okay, well, I will get around to watching this at some point.
Yeah,
Like the priority for me was the biggest one was actually finally watching Spider-Man 2, which I never saw up until a few days ago for not really any real reason. I just kind of forgot about it.
Well, like
But
I remember before.
yes,
Spider-Man 2?
the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2 I didn't see until a few days ago.
I mean, like when before even you started watching any of the MCU stuff, you told me you weren't like a big superhero person. You weren't a comic person
I mean,
at all. So
yeah, with the exception of Batman, I mean, yeah, I
Right.
was super into it.
so you didn't
So
have a connection
No.
that kind of weeded.
No, yeah, not like how it is now. Thanks to you. So, yeah, like yeah, LJ is completely blown away right now hearing that I just saw Spider-Man 2 for the
Dude.
first time ever, and I even made a little fun thing that I put on my Instagram story that I'll share with you
Oh,
for
yeah.
my newfound love of Doc Ock, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
It still is, I think, one of the best
Yeah,
superhero films.
I was
of all
worried because that movie was hyped up for like pretty much 20 years,
time.
and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's no way it's gonna live. That was if there was a reason why I lightly avoided watching it was like, there's no way it's gonna live up to the hype that everyone ever, did. But then when there were rumors that they were gonna bring in pretty much all three universes into this one, I was like, well, okay, well, now I have to watch it. And then after I watched it, I was like, I should have watched it when it came out back then, because I saw the first one in theaters and I loved it, but then
It's so weird then that you saw the first one, loved it, and didn't watch the second one. That'd be like watching I watched A New Hope. It would blew me away.
And then just like
and not watch Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Everyone says Empire is better. That can't be.
Yeah. So that's a perfect analogy. So now after I watched it, I was like super excited and like temporarily obsessed with it. And then I was just like, ugh, like, why didn't I watch it back then? Like, I could have been, I could have had the same huge reaction to the trailer, seeing him show up at the end of that first teaser trailer that everyone else did. I did share a little bit of that though, because I went on YouTube and I looked at like mishmashes of people reacting to that and screaming their heads off, seeing him show up at the end. So I got a flavor of that.
Yeah.
But I am glad that I finally watched it and I loved it. I was super into it.
So on the topic of the old movies, all the villains show up.
Yeah.
Except for Spider-Man 3.
Right.
We don't talk about Spider-Man 3.
Well, no, there was one villain from Spider-Man 3.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Sandman.
That's right.
No Harry Osborn from either.
No Harry Osborn. Harry's not there. Both the Harrys are not there.
Yeah.
But
and Venom, the original Venom.
I think that's why I blocked out that Sandman is in there. Like, it's not even the Spider-Man movie. Like any superhero movie that features more than one villain tends to be muddy and like not great. I think with all the villains in here, that was a concern, right? I'm like, oh my god, cool, we're gonna get all of them in here. But then I'm like,
But
that never works.
yeah,
Like
that
ever.
was my
I'm
concern
like,
too.
like because you don't get to concentrate on one. But I think this is how Marvel can juggle all these characters is that they've been doing it for 10 years. Like Thanos didn't just show up in Infinity War. Like Thanos was there, built up. All these other characters, Loki was built up, so that when they're all together and whatnot, we don't need the backstory. And that's the thing about that works. Why I think the villains work in this is that we don't necessarily. If you watch the movies, then you know kind of their backstory and whatever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't essential to the plot. Like this was not a Doc Ock story. This is not a Electro story.
No.
And so we didn't need to. And like there was enough exposition from them that we kind of get the gist of what they were doing and what they were here for. This movie wasn't a man versus man story. This was a man versus self story.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And the villains just serve that purpose. What did you guys? I'll ask Thom because you didn't see any of the Andrew Garfield movies and the other. Well, you didn't see the third Spider or Tobey Maguire movie. Like, how did you feel about not knowing Electro, not knowing Lizard, Dr. Connors, and not knowing Sandman? God, I can't remember his real name.
Yeah,
it's.
He said it in the thing.
I know, and
I don't remember it, but
it's bugging me.
So I was worried, especially considering that I didn't have a chance to catch up on every single thing, because to be fair, there was a lot. There was all three Sam Raimi. My priority was at least watch two, but I rewatched the first one. All three Raimi, both Garfield, What If, which still need to catch up on, and also all of Hawkeye.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna have to spoil What If for you.
Just go for it.
A little bit later.
Okay. Because
a few Marco.
That's it. That's Marco.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, a few things from What If have been spoiled for me on top, already. So there's a possibility that what you say I might have already known, but it's fine. I mean, I'm still gonna watch them. I mean, I've watched stuff that's been spoiled already. I mean, Game of Thrones is a prime example. I got a lot of big events spoiled for me, but that's because it's a different reason. That wasn't because I didn't have time to catch up. It was because books were already available.
That's a different thing.
But it didn't, despite being spoiled, it didn't prevent me from enjoying the show anyway, at least, up to a certain point. That's a whole other thing. But as far as how I felt, despite not watching those, I mean, granted, I do feel like I would have had a bigger reaction when when Garfield showed up.
I mean, I'm talking literally Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
How did you feel about Jamie Foxx? How did you feel about the thing is, like, I didn't know it was them, but like Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actor's name who plays Lizard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I to the point, but not knowing those characters, how did you feel they worked in this movie?
I thought they worked really well, despite not knowing those characters. I got the gist of their backgrounds in this movie pretty well. I'd say very well, actually. Yeah, of course, having watched, if I would have watched those movies, I feel like it would have been different, but I got the gist of it, and I wasn't like, oh, I don't care about these guys at all. I got enough to where I was like, all right, they're interesting, they're intimidating, especially Jimmy Foxx's character. I mean, and everything I've heard, again, this third party, just like, the villains in the Garfield movies are kind of underwhelming, and I'm like, at least not in this. I didn't feel that way at all.
Reese Ifans.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought I mean, of course, it's a bonus if you are already familiar with those characters from those movies. But for me personally, it didn't affect. It didn't negatively affect the experience of them as far as not
Right.
seeing those movies is concerned.
So
Hey,
as
you know,
someone who
uh,
did see those movies, how did you feel they worked, Lauren?
how did I
Com-
Um,
feel about?
compared to them in their own movies.
Well, I thought that Electro was much better in this, especially because they put him in his classic,
Even for that
or
yeah,
brief
like
moment.
a fairly classic. Yeah, I wish that there was more of it, but it was nice to have seen that they went that way.
Yeah.
I thought that he was much better in this film. Sandman was it was fine. Uh, they didn't really have a lot of him. The lizard, um, I thought that it was just enjoyable seeing them again. Uh, although it's funny because I was thinking to myself because I want to go see this movie with my mom, and see how she reacts because I feel she's gonna cry at the end, but how will she feel not really knowing all of these characters?
yeah,
Will it spoil her enjoyment? I don't think so. I think that I think that there's a way in which they explain everything without having to say you need to go back in time and watch all this stuff. We basically need to know they were a villain of another Spider-Man and that they died at his hands.
Not all of them did.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the thing. Not all of them did.
Not all of them did?
Sandman
Who didn't
didn't
die?
die. Um, Lizard didn't die. Electro
I thought he
didn't
did
die.
die.
Eh. Sandman just kind of disappeared, but he didn't die. Lizard was semi cured
Was he?
at the end, and then Electro just kind of disappeared into energy, but he didn't die.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like they did die.
No, that's a big thing about the whole. Like, there's a big discussion about when the trailer came out, and they just were like, "All these guys died." It wasn't because everyone's like, "No, they didn't all die."
Hmm.
Octavius died, and Goblin died.
Right. There's a humorous story. Did you hear the story um about Alfred Molina and how he in the original films, I didn't realize it was all puppetry.
Yep.
And so now this time around it's CGI, and how he enjoyed the fact that he didn't have to deal with these puppets, but he'd be up in the harness, and they said that people would be talking to him, and all of a sudden they'd move him, and he's just moving away, and he keeps talking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was a funny story.
Yeah. Um, I think I think all the villains showed more character than they did in their well, all the villains from Superman 3 and the Garfield movies. So we're
Mhm.
talking Sandman, Electro, and Lizard. I feel I like their characters more in this movie than I did in their respective movies. Like Electro, I don't really like Electro. Like I'm like this is not. I don't know what's going on here, but like he felt like a better villain in this movie than he
Yeah.
did in his own movie. Um, Lizard didn't give him much to do, but even those little brief scenes, I felt like all right, I kind of want to see this lizard more than I did in the other verse, and then
I,
also a little bit like same thing with Sandman, like because he was like that one like you're not sure what side he was on, you know what I mean? At first he's
Mhm.
like I'm gonna help this guy, and then he's like I don't trust this guy.
Mhm.
Um, So I think, to what you said, Lauren, I don't think you need to watch the Andrew Garfield movies. I don't think you need to watch Spider-Man 3.
Okay, yeah, I was about
think
to
it
ask, like, do you think I
enhances the
should?
experience.
Yes, in that, let's talk about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire being in this movie. Like, the rumors about these guys being in it,
For a long time.
like, we kind of knew about this rumor for a very, very long time. My thought was like, okay, we probably will see them, but not a lot. And I am pleasantly surprised and delighted that we got way more out of them, and so much so that it makes me appreciate Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's portrayal of Peter Parker more so than I think, because when Spider-Man came out, the first one with Tobey Maguire, that's the first time we saw live action Spider-Man feel like Spider-Man. I know we saw it in the 70s, but come on.
Yeah.
Like, you felt like you were like when Superman came out in 70 whatever 9 whatever
78, I think.
And how that movie, the tagline was like, it'll make you believe a man can fly. Like, this is the first time we saw Spider-Man swing around in New York City, and it felt like Spider-Man. So that will always kind of hold a place in my heart, because it gave me Spider-Man that I thought we'd never get, right? And then 2 gave us Doc Ock, who in the comics, I'm just like, I always felt like he looked so weird with that bowl haircut. Like green,
but
like
that's the way he looks like in the comics.
I know. That's why I was like, as much as Spider-Man has a really great rogues gallery, they're all pretty weird. Like, their costumes are like Electro's costume is really weird.
Yeah.
Like, the only villain I'd like,
Vulture.
The Vultures looks, oh my god.
The Vulture is the weirdest.
Mysterio.
That one I'm glad that they updated. I just don't think that they could have done anything with it.
Yeah. But
yeah, I looked up what they originally looked like. I'm like, oh wow, all right, they did a great job updating all that.
Yeah, the Rhino.
Although I always kind of liked Electro's costume. Like, I don't know why. I just think it's kind
his
of
yeah,
his little.
But it's like so basic.
Mask.
This is like a unitard and then a funky head thingy, dress, whatever you call it,
or mask. Or
sorry ahead of time about the drama going on. My girlfriend and I ordered food and we had it delivered, and like a bunch of stuff is missing.
Oh no!
Like, we just realized, like, wait, our drinks aren't with us.
No. Hold on. Speaking of my drink, hold on.
Oh, it'll come back. Bring it.
I mean,
what they do is they probably just refund you or give you credit.
Yeah. It's happened. I once had this girl just drive off with my breakfast burrito several months ago. Like, just looking like on like the Postmates thing. Like, you see them like, oh, here they come, and then I just see their thing going, oh, and there they go. Oh, they're leaving the neighborhood and now they're on the freeway. I guess they really wanted my burrito.
Yeah.
So do you? I'm wondering. Do you guys think I should at some point watch Spider-Man 3 and the 2 Andrew Garfield movies? Like, but do you think, like,
I would watch the Andrew Garfield ones before 3?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
one, because
the higher priority is finishing Hawkeye.
Andrew,
so
Andrew Garfield's. I like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I like Emma Stone's MJ or Gwen Stacy. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the villains are just weak, and I think, like, I remember when those movies came out, I said they kind of paint themselves in this weird corner with their villains, because everything was related to Oscorp. Like, all of them. I'm like, how can you not see that in this universe and be like, we should probably investigate Oscorp? Like, all of them stem from something that happened at Oscorp. So it's like, how's no one gonna sit there and be like,
we should look into this?
We should look into this.
I like how they made fun of how ridiculous Jamie Foxx's origin
Yeah.
story was. He
Yes.
fell into a vat
Yeah.
of seals.
Yeah. Like Jamie, actually, if you watch any interviews with Jamie Foxx for this movie, he's just like, I'm just happy it wasn't blue, because that's one thing about Electro. One, the biggest strike is like his costume, just his color scheme
Yeah,
is like green and yellow,
yellow. Yeah,
and so I don't know if they're trying to be clever in the Garfield ones, but like, well, yellow and green make blue, so we'll make Electro blue, and you're like, what?
Even back when that came out, there was just buzz everywhere that I was reading, like on Twitter and all that, just like, why is he blue? Like, I remember even me not knowing what the heck was going on, everyone was just like, he looks stupid. Like,
Yeah.
it just,
They probably said the same thing about like, you can't just have him in green and yellow. That looks lame. Like whole like back to the X-Men. You know, what do you think you're going to do? Wear yellow spandex?
yeah.
And now we're kind of like, yes, you should.
Yes.
yeah.
Well, like it's the MCU has proved that, yeah, you can make it work. I mean, like, as we mentioned, like Vulture and others, like they can still kind of stay true to the original, but still update it so it doesn't look dumb.
Our argument has always been for anything they want to change dramatically, like characters design dramatically, is Mysterio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mysterio. I mean, that, guy with the fishbowl on his head.
But they made it work.
They made him look cool. It's like weird.
And it was Jake Gyllenhaal, so it was a huge bonus.
So it's like, what? They can make any costume work.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm also looking forward to the last episode of Hawkeye. That's all I'll say.
I mean,
Okay.
the good news for you, Thom, is that those episodes are short.
Well, and it is. I mean, I really like. So what happened was, I'll give you a rundown. I rewatched the first Raimi Spider-Man, and I was like, am I going to like it as much as I did remember back then when I saw it opening night with my friends. So I liked it more. I was like, this is great. Like, I always loved Sam Raimi's direction, his kind of over the top zooms and all that. Like, and then I was like, and then what I did was I then watched the first Hawkeye episode, and I loved it. And I always loved Clint. I always loved his character. People kind of made fun of him for being Arrow guy, but I always liked him. So
Archer.
He's like the Aquaman of the Justice League. Everyone's like, that's just Aquaman.
Well, we were talking about like in Age of Ultron how he's giving Wanda that pep talk. He's like I'm shooting arrows. None of this makes sense. Like, but he's self-aware. He's like, come on, like one of my partners is literally a god. So what the heck am I gonna do? But I'm gonna do my best. So and then I was like, okay, well, I need to watch Spider-Man 2. That's priority. Fell in love with that. And then I was going to finish Hawkeye, but then other stuff came up. So it's more of just real life coming into play pretty much. Yeah. But I'm probably going to watch one or two tonight. Like, I really want to, especially considering how Black Widow ended. Like, I want to see where that goes. And I know you guys know more than I do. So I really want to see that, because I love her character. I love Clint. I love this new character. I'm just like, all right, I'm in for it. So I'm gonna finish that first, and then I'm gonna go back to What If. I only watched the first episode of What If, but then again, like I mentioned, some things have been spoiled for me. It's not gonna change anything. I still love these characters. I still love this universe. I will get around to the other ones. Like I'll probably do what you recommended when I feel like it. If I'm kind of bored, I'll watch the Andrew Garfield ones, and then I'll get around to watching the third Spider-Man, and that's it.
I mean, like, I think one of my favorite things about this movie is the interaction between the three Spider-Men.
It was great.
Yes.
Like, I thought that they maybe make a cameo and show up at the end and be like, ta-da-da, we're here to save the day. But they were a pretty integral part of the story.
Yeah.
And I loved, and I think Lauren and I will appreciate this, is that like when it's one of the only times where I understood somebody without subtitles. When Ned's Lola was talking.
I know.
And I was laughing.
feeling.
I was laughing before the translation happened because I'm like, "Oh my god!"
You already, yeah.
I know. I was
I
laughing
realized-
at the translation.
I realized that you were laughing before the translation. I was like, oh, of course.
I was laughing through the thing because I understood what you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
And I'm the only one laughing in the theater.
I wonder if anyone else in there is like, why are they already laughing? Like they didn't put two and two together. Like they know what she's saying. Like
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they did
Yeah, it was
not
kind of nice that
no
they didn't,
subtitles. Yeah.
the subtitle that.
Yeah, no
So that
subtitles.
it gave Ned, the laughs, but like I
Yeah.
loved that house being Filipino. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Totally Filipino house.
But I loved, like, it made me more appreciate, again, like I said earlier, like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's different Spider-Man. I love the way that they helped Peter,
Yeah.
right? What do you guys think about them?
Their dynamic was great.
Yeah. I like the way that each one had a different personality,
Yeah.
which I thought was really kind of cool. And what was I going to say? The conversation about Tobey Maguire's web shooter.
Yeah.
I love that they addressed it because
Yeah.
It's like they come out of your wrist, dude. They come out of anywhere else.
So I mean, so when especially at the end when they were all like working as a team, especially I loved how they like used each other's webs to kind of like fling each other around. I thought that was great, but it like. Well, one of the things I was going to say to you after we left the theater, but before you're like, no, wait until after we start doing this, was that it reminds me of how we've discussed the insanity of pulling off, especially Infinity War and Endgame. You go way back to Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. You're like, this is our plan. We're going to do this for this amount of time, and we're going to end it with all of these characters at the end, and it's going to work. And we've discussed, like, if we were execs, I know I'm repeating myself here, but it rings true even now, especially with this one, where you would hear this as a picture like, that's insane. There's no way it's going to work. It's going to be a jumbled mess, but it worked perfectly. They pulled it off. And what I was thinking for this before it came out was like, if they bring in these three Spider-Man, if you pitch that to me and you're like, how we made these other movies that originally had nothing to do with the MCU at all, we were just doing our own thing and we did it twice, we're going to bring them in now. I would have the same reaction. I'm like, that's not going to work, guys. That's going to be a mess. But their personalities were so distinct and different that they fed off each other really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, and it made me appreciate them more. Even though, again, I never saw the Andrew Garfield ones, you could still see those little differences. Like, they're all different, but they have those little similarities in them that I think made it work really, really well.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is I thought that Andrew Garfield was better as Peter Parker in this movie than he was in his own movies.
That's why I think the opposite. I like his Peter Parker more than I like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker.
Interesting. This is interesting.
Huh.
So we also have a Toby vote here. I mean, I'm again only seeing the two.
Right.
I do love Tom Holland's personally. So
Yeah,
but I
think
do I
of
do
the
love
three,
Toby's as well. Yeah, of the three.
of the
Those are
three,
three,
I
yeah.
think Tom Holland has both sides pretty
Yeah.
pretty nailed.
Mhm.
I think the problem was, and it's not really, I think, Toby's fault or Andrew Garfield's fault, is that they moved them through high school right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, they
Whereas
were too old.
Tom Holland, there's like this movie they're talking about like what seniors talk about. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into college. This
Yeah.
is the third movie, Spider-Man movie, and Spider-Man's been in a couple other movies. He's
Mhm.
still in high school.
He's still a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah,
Everyone calls him a kid because
yeah,
he still has that mindset and he's still growing, and you can see that going all the way to, Cap Civil War. You can see his growth.
yeah.
Especially there's those little moments in there that I think are great. Like, oh yeah, he's still a kid. He still has that mindset, but he's still maturing, and you see that throughout every movie he's been in, and it's great to see that growth.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's move to the one of the scenes that was very emotional, and that is
Mhm.
Aunt May.
Yeah.
Mm.
I did not
Yeah.
see that coming,
No, I didn't see that coming.
and I was like, the first moment where I'm like, oh my god, no, they're not going to do this, and then she stands up and she's okay after the bomb goes off, and you're like, okay, good.
Yeah.
She was in they did that almost too well. She was
Yeah.
in shock,
Yeah,
and it was hard to watch because you're like, she's totally innocent here, and she was dragged into this, and it was hard to watch because I liked her version of Aunt May. I mean, we saw enough of her to like, okay, yeah, just yeah, that was not an easy scene to watch, especially considering the reaction to it, and that
yeah.
she was in total shock for it. So
I
yeah,
think
I
it's.
mean,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that it was. Oh, now I totally lost my train of thought. Go ahead and with yours, and then I'll.
Okay, well, I mean, I I appreciate it in a storytelling way because back before I really got into the MCU, one of my I don't even want to call it a gripe because that's way worse than it's a nitpick, if anything, was my issue small issues was that it didn't seem like they were taking any big chances as far as consequences is concerned. As as far as okay, this character has to die or something has to happen to them because this over here happened, and it has to be connected. Um, and I mean, we went past that point years ago, but I feel like this is a prime example of okay, well, we're going to tell this story for this one, and Peter's decision to do all these things is going to lead up to this, and it happens naturally. As difficult and as hard as it is,
Right.
I love that they didn't kind of chicken out and be like, no, we can't do that, no, because of no, they're like, no, like this, there needs to be consequences to this, and it's going to be extreme and it's not going to be pretty.
Right.
But as far as storytelling is concerned, it's super important that we do this. And was it hard to watch her die? Yes, pretty sure we were all tearing up, because I certainly was.
Yeah.
But just seeing that Marvel has come so far to be like, no, there needs to be consequences to certain things that happen.
Right.
So from just that perspective, I just wanted to say that I appreciate it, just as a budding storyteller, so to speak.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
did you find what you were gonna say, LJ?
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Yeah, I remembered.
All right, go ahead.
Go for it.
But first, I just wanted to welcome Matthew to
Oh,
the audience. Say,
Hello.
hello.
we're all doing fine, and
We're good.
We just wanted to make sure that this is we are talking spoilers. So if you
Hopefully.
haven't seen the film and you are not wanting to be spoiled, which I think you shouldn't.
Yeah, hopefully you
Um,
saw the movie and we didn't just
yeah,
spoil
hopefully you
something
saw the
major
movie.
for you.
If not, come back and watch this in replay.
After you see
But
it.
if you have, come and join us
Yeah.
in this conversation. So, anyway, what I was going to say is that just talking about the consequences and how every Spider-Man has lost somebody.
Yeah,
So Tobey Maguire saying
that's
he
true.
lost Uncle Ben, and what's his name? Andrew Garfield lost Gwen Stacy, and then you go back to the Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse film, and how everybody was talking about losing somebody there. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting the kind of theme of loss in Spider-Man. I think is an important one because it does
Hmm.
show the consequences.
Yeah, I think you know, one Marvel. We knew with Black Widow that Marvel's not afraid to
Yeah,
to take it there, and yeah,
yeah,
I think with even with all the Spider Mans, it's happened already. Like
yeah,
I think it's the thing with about Ben is that it's such a part of his. It's like Batman, like Ben dying and Batman's parents dying is just built into the origin story,
Mm-hmm.
hmm,
right? So Andrew Garfield also lost Ben in the movies, but I think we're all just used to it. Like that's what
hmm,
made him Spider Man.
yeah,
But then with Andrew Garfield, that's why I love the scene where he rescues MJ. And if you saw the movie and how Gwen died, it was almost like almost therapeutic
yeah.
for Andrew Garfield's
And you
Yeah.
get
version,
that.
and you
I
get
mean,
that,
yeah,
and he played
I
that
already knew
perfectly.
about that. Yeah, I already knew about Gwen's death. Again, I got a lot of stuff spoiled. And again, even though I feel like even if I didn't know about that and I found out about it like this, and it's more implied, like he doesn't just come out and say, this is exactly what happened.
Oh
You
yeah,
can still see all of that, especially when he saves MJ at the end, where you're right. It's just like this relief, this little lift off his shoulders that he's been carrying,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which I loved very much.
yeah. They both, I think, and Toby's reunion with the real Otto Octavius, I
Hmm.
liked a lot because they were respected each other in that
Yeah,
movie
they don't. Yeah,
until
definitely.
until the little chippy thing
Hmm.
took a hold of them. So I love that they got a reunion,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Matthew said he saw it.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
good.
I I'm glad that they gave May the line
Yeah,
because it's the one thing we didn't get, and it's like one of those things where with Tom Holland, like we didn't need to because we've seen how many iterations of the origin story. So I'm
mhm.
glad that when we got introduced to Spider-Man in the MCU, it wasn't a rehash of all
They
the other
we didn't
ones.
we didn't have to do it again, which I
Yeah,
love.
Mm-hmm.
I still think about that. I'm like, we know
like,
that part
and the thing is, like,
already.
he mentioned his uncle. I can't remember if he mentioned Uncle Ben specifically, but I know he mentioned something about his uncle, and that
Yeah.
was like, okay, that's his origin. That it's he went through the same thing. Now I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, did he, or is Uncle Ben a different Uncle Ben? Like, what happened with Uncle Ben in this universe different?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a
Because
good question.
because I feel like him losing May was his turning point. Like, I think he was just bit by a spider. He's a good kid anyway. I don't think he was kind of like Tobey Maguire's and the other Spider-Man, where he's just like, I got these cool powers. I'm gonna make money and go wrestling
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was Ben's death that drove him to become a superhero. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like the same thing with Andrew Garfield's um, origin, but we didn't get that with Tom Holland. So I wonder what this his Ben story is in this, because like Andrew Garfield and Toby, they'll both mention Ben and their loss, like, and
Yeah.
Tom Holland Spider-Man 1 uh, didn't acknowledge it too,
Yeah.
saying like, oh, I lost my uncle as well,
Mm-hmm.
um, which makes me question that. But I'm glad that we got a similar story. As much as I obviously hate for Aunt May to be the one, but like
Hmm.
his, and he's gone through a lot of crap. So,
Yeah. I was about to say.
but like this, like this something this personal, and the fact that he feels like it's his fault,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the same thing that happens with all the Spider-Men. Like their loss, they think it's their fault, and so that's why they became the heroes that they are. Whereas this Spider-Man has been a hero. He just, in this movie, like I said in the beginning, like this is man versus self, and it's his reaffirmation that he is doing the right thing, even though there are bad things that happen to heroes. And if you've seen Hawkeye, that kind of falls into that too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got some commentary from the audience. Matthew says that he'd like to see another Andrew Spider-Man film, which is an interesting question that we'll get to after we go through this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still confused about everybody forgetting about Tom's character. How would Happy know Aunt May? Good question.
Yeah, good question.
So it's not that they forget who Spider-Man is. Everyone knows who's, like, because even like J. Jonah Jameson, he was just back to Spider-Man's an evil, blah 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 blah. So everyone knows there's a Spider-Man. It's like what they forget is they don't know who he is. With Aunt May, it could just be, like he even said, like, how did you know Aunt May? And then Happy, like, Peter's like, through Spider-Man, and Happy said the same thing. So all the stuff that happened with Spider-Man could have happened.
Okay,
But
I didn't get that.
What they don't know is who he is.
Is the identity of him.
Like all that stuff with the Avengers and stuff could have happened. The only thing that's different is that he didn't take off his mask and didn't know whatever.
Right.
It could have been a mystery this whole time, as far as that's concerned.
Right, and his origin story still happens because even with Tony being part of it, because he's no longer there, his part isn't erased.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just any
just
mention of him or whatever. So it could have been just in Happy's mind, Tony knew who he was, but didn't tell Happy.
Yeah. Okay, so Glowbug27 says, I love the idea of a more grounded Spider-Man going forward without all the Stark support. I think the ending is so heartbreaking in that the movie took everything from Peter, and then they continue everything that happened to Happy and all the characters happened.
Yeah.
They just forgot Peter's role in it. Okay, yeah. Which is what we pretty much said.
Pretty much what we just said.
I am also looking forward to a more grounded Spider-Man. I like the new costume, which is basically comic accurate.
Yeah, classic. Yeah.
And I think that's cool. This makes him more of a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he seems like he's more than willing to accept that. He's okay, well, like, is all the Stark tech cool? Yeah. It's a big leg up, but just like in the first one, like he doesn't need it. Yeah, like he doesn't need it per se. Like it just, well, I mean, to make a little bit of a parallel here, Thor isn't the god of hammers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you okay?
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Holding on. So Matthew's like, what happens? Like, basically, I mean, here's the thing. Like, just like Back to the Future and all those kind of things, the more you try to explain things that don't really happen, the more you're going to find like, the things that like will break the illusion. But you can just say, like, all that stuff kind of gets erased from people's memories.
Pretty much. Like, just imagine it just, like, essentially that the memory of who Spider-Man is now erased.
Yeah. Nanotech does not really exist. Time travel does not really exist. Like, this magic stuff doesn't really exist.
Yeah, when you get into time travel with any movie ever, like, when you just sit down and think of like none of this makes sense. So just even like we're going back to Endgame, where they're all talking about where Ant-Man, they're all talking about like, can we just go back, and Thanos, like, no, that's not how time travel works, and just how how Ant-Man's like, so Back to the Future was just a bunch of
Yeah.
BS,
Like-
just
Magic works like magic.
yeah, it's magic.
Yeah.
And time travel is complicated and crazy and insane. So
Yeah.
And that's okay. So, but essentially, just all the things that just I have a feeling. I mean, we know we're just scratching the surface here as far as weird stuff is concerned.
Mhm.
We're diving into the multiverse now, and things are gonna get crazier,
Yep.
which I'm all for. Like seeing, and then I only discovered recently that Sam Raimi is directing Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know that until when I watched Spider-Man 2. I was like, oh, I looked, I do what I always do. If I watch a movie that I'm super into, I go to IMDb. I'm like, okay, what are they all up to? I was like, you know what? What's Sam Raimi up to? The last thing I remember watching in theater that was
that
his
was the big
Oz.
the big hullabaloo a couple years ago when Scott left the project and then they got Sam Raimi, and I was like, okay.
See, I missed that announcement. So when I saw that, I lost my mind. I'm like, because I remember when they announced originally Multiverse of Madness, they're like, yeah, we want to have like horror elements. We want this to be different.
Yeah.
And then I saw Raimi was directing it. I'm like, oh, all right. I'm super happy. I didn't. Who better to bring that in?
Right.
So I was already excited about it before. And now I'm even more excited about it now, knowing that Raimi's directing it. So, all right, we got more comments here.
So Matthew has asked a couple questions here. So what happens to the social media post?
That's what we just
Thom
answered.
does
Yeah,
before-
pretty much
you
just like
answered that.
yeah.
Okay. Second, would you all have been happy if the Thom Spider-Man, the character, ended on this movie?
Considering how it ends, I feel like we're just getting started with him.
Yeah.
But
personally.
I mean, there was always that rumor that this was going to be his last.
Yeah.
And then rumors again where he's like, no, I'm still whatever.
He's
They
done this
left it. They left it in a point where if we did end and this is the last Spider-Man movie,
I'd be okay with it.
that's
It
fine.
does-
It just
it
means
feels
like
fine.
because he's taken like, you know, if they keep going with Spider-Man, and who knows what's going to happen with Tom Holland? Like, does he?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's signed more another deal with Marvel / Sony for anything, but it takes him kind of out of being a big player in the MCU.
Yeah, he's back to being
He's back to
friendly
just
neighborhood
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which means they can probably do all of the weird things they want to do with the Sony Spider-Verse. I think that's what's going to happen.
We did get a little, I don't want, not a hint, but a little, when Electro was like, I was kind of hoping for a black Spider-Man, and that.
I was hoping that we'd see.
Yeah,
Miles
Peter
Morales.
was like, "Oh, there could be," and I was like, "Come on,
I know.
please." Because
You're teasing us.
I've already expressed to Rich like I want to see Miles so bad.
Right.
I'm
They
so
gave us
excited
everything
about.
else. Why not?
Yeah,
Miles?
I'm so excited about that I almost just slipped a swear word. That's how much I want Miles in the MCU. So
That's funny.
yeah, so if they for a while like going with that, like okay, well we'll steer clear of Tom Holland Spider-Man, so he's back to just kind of being friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and if they brought in Miles, then I'd be right as rain personally.
Right. So Glowbug27 says, I just think of it as Peter was always there. He was just in the background. Ned and MJ were in school with him, but they did not know him or interact with him. Also asked, how about the necklace Peter gave MJ in Far From Home? She has that necklace and has no idea how she got it. And what the movie did for Sony was it untangled Spider-Man from the MCU. Peter has no ties, and Spider-Man is a mystery to everyone. I don't know if it necessarily untangled him,
It
Because
just made his role smaller, at least maybe temporarily, if anything.
Because none of the Avengers know him
Right.
anymore, so they wouldn't
Yeah.
call him. Like
Yeah,
Tony's dead, so there's
True.
that. He has no ties to the MCU.
pretty much what
Anymore.
it was when Tony discovers him in Civil War. He was doing his thing on his own for who knows. I forgot how long. I think I don't remember if it was, but it wasn't for that long. Maybe a year or something like that. He was friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in his like sweatpants, pretty much, and his goggles.
Right.
Like he's pretty much back to that role now, where because it's obvious he was around when all those crazy events were happening before he shows up in Civil War, and I feel like he's just back to doing that now,
Yeah,
at least for the time being.
and the thing about and this to one of the comments is that Spider-Man Peter Parker almost does not exist. He has no school records. No one knows him yet. That's why he has to take his GED.
Yeah, I saw a little GED. I'm like, oh, he's
Right,
really
so
truly
he's
starting over.
literally starting over and trying to form a life. So
Right.
that'll be interesting in how he does it
Yeah.
and whatever.
See
But
how he
like
does
that's why like he's this is it for him as far as event movies for a while. Like
Yeah.
he's not going to show up. I don't think. I think if anything, he's going to be more in line with the Sony Spider-Verse that they're planning with him. If he keeps going as Spider-Man, like,
I hope not.
and I get it. Like, this has been how long of Tom Holland's life?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He's got another franchise coming his way.
yeah,
Uh,
and probably more to come for all we know.
What franchise?
the Uncharted series.
Uncharted. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was a franchise. And
I mean, it's
Well,
four.
it's-
It's 4 video games.
There's
so
4. I never played them.
He's
I didn't
essentially
even know what it was.
Nathan Drake is essentially a modern-ish
Indiana
Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what the I saw the trailer, but I had no idea what it was about. I thought it was just an original movie or something. So
No, it's based off a
That's
series,
kinda
so there
it's-
could be
it's
a
a-
lot with that character.
yeah.
Um,
As long as it's good.
yeah, I mean, like I feel like they could not. Like if they don't, they could also easily bring in Miles Morales.
Yeah.
right.
So there might be a spider, someone, and then rumors of a Spider Woman. Who knows?
Right.
Um,
Matthew says, I just thought there was no time travel. MJ had a band-aid on her forehead. I just think that they forgot him as a person.
Yeah.
Then it says, it's interesting they built Ned's character up to just have him not remember. And Glowbug says he's also going to play Fred Astaire in a biopic. Ooh,
I didn't know
I
that.
did not know that
Interesting.
either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm
Looking that up
forward
right
to
now.
that.
I didn't know that.
I love Fred Astaire, so I totally watch it with Tom Holland in it. Unless you're talking about Jacob Batalon.
The whole thing with like forgetting Spider-Man, like we've seen this happen in other stories and whatever, and at some point it gets unraveled. And this is not a story that's unique. It's happened to him in the comics. He did the same kind of thing for different reasons, but like everyone forgot who he was. And it never ever stays that way. So is it going to stay that way? I don't know. It's comic books. No one stays dead. And weird things happen. So
Yeah.
It could be that the magic can only work as much as it can, but there's life is too complicated that like maybe at some point someone's going to remember or something's going to happen. So it's not the end all be all of like Spider-Man's forgotten, because also in the comic books that gets undone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things like I don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
How does a laser sword end in 32 inches? I don't know. I don't care. It just happens.
Yeah. Yeah. How do more force abilities keep showing up? Because
It's the Force.
it's the force, and it's fiction, and it's fun.
Magic is
I mean,
magic.
Yeah. Just think of the context of the force only in just imagine if like, we just go back to A New Hope.
Mhm.
Couldn't move stuff with his mind,
Yeah.
and then Empire comes back. Wait, there's this too. Yeah, there's more. It's
Yeah.
fine. And the same thing. I mean, if I mean, keep in mind that the whole idea of the multiverse and all of that wasn't even brought in until very recently in the MCU. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
things
all this
are
started
getting
with
nuts.
Tony Stark being captured and building a suit, and then
Yes.
the MCU happened. So
Yeah.
anything can happen in comic books. Anything can happen in the MCU.
Mhm.
Um, it for comics and the kind of genre, it's like the minutia of like how exactly does this all work. All that does is kind of, I don't want to say ruin, but like if you think about it too much, then you know you're kind of trying to dispel the illusion of movies
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
and
same
make
thing
believe
goes.
and
The same
fantasy.
thing goes with people that complain that in every Star Wars movie there's sound in space.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't matter, guys.
There's
Like there's
reality and
yeah,
there's, comic
it's a
book
movie.
reality or sci-fi reality. I mean, it's just you have to kind of do some suspended disbelief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we don't go too much later. Um,
Yeah, I probably have about a
let's talk
minute.
about the. Let's just go ahead and talk about the post credit scenes.
Hmm.
Yes.
The first one being Venom,
Hmm.
Right.
which I hadn't seen. Like Tom, I haven't seen them, but I like the movie that was just out. I guess there was the ending that showed him going to the
I
MCU
saw that.
verse or something.
Oh,
I
see,
think I
I
saw that
didn't.
on TikTok or something. I was like, oh, like what I saw was essentially Tom Holland's Spider-Man being referenced in Venom temporarily. That's what I saw. Like we see him in, I think on the TV or something.
Okay, yeah, because I
Yeah.
didn't see. I didn't see the second
I
movie.
mean, I'll watch them because I love Tom Hardy, so that's enough for me.
Hmm.
I'm not expecting Citizen Kane, so
Yeah.
uh, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things like, yeah, I'll get around to it because I know it's still connected, obviously, in some way. Even if it's an alternate universe, which I'm okay with. I love that stuff anyway. I'll just have a blast watching it for entertainment value. Um, yeah,
I
uh,
wonder if I can stream Venom 2 somewhere.
I'm
Do
sure
you, do you know?
I don't know.
I have
there's
to
got to
look
be
it
a
up
way.
later.
I'm sure.
I have to look it up later. Anyway, what was your question again? It's getting late. Oh, the
Yeah.
post credit.
Yeah.
The
Oh yeah,
post credits.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I thought that it was very interesting that they showed because if there was any question as to whether he was in the Tom Holland universe or not has been you know
Answered.
shown that he is from another universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the answer to that question is yes and no. Yeah. At the same time, like no, but yes,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
no, but also yes.
Yeah. I mean, like it was a fun scene. I know nothing
Yeah.
about that version of Venom.
Hmm.
Um, I'm curious now, just by the little interaction we had.
Yeah. So am I.
Um, but yeah, and then it leaves it open ended with a piece of the symbiote
Being
um,
left behind.
being left
Right.
behind in the MCU.
Yeah.
Matthew is asking, how did Venom get to the MCU? I think it's
It
basically
just happened.
like everybody else did
Yeah.
from the other universes that he managed to slip through, and
Hmm.
maybe just for a few minutes because Venom was like, "We just got here."
From what I've seen spoiled, like from the second Venom movie, like you mentioned, like I think we're talking about the same scene where it's referenced. From what I saw, I mean, we're obviously spoiling a little bit of Venom 2, but that obviously got spoiled for me. is that that character was temporarily brought into the Tom Holland MCU reality and then was brought back in this this first post credit scene. And yeah, I think that's it. So I think at least the symbiote, that version, that part of Venom, is now in some way part of the MCU, as and that can, I know enough about that it can spread. So I do feel like there is a high possibility we will be getting Venom in the MCU at some point.
Yep.
It's just a matter of when and how.
Yeah,
Since a piece of it
they
was left
definitely
behind.
teased it for sure.
Yeah, and especially considering that if that can get left behind, what else can get left behind? Despite the spell that Doctor Strange did at the end.
Yeah. And then we got the teaser trailer, basically, for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which obviously I'll have to see it again because it wasn't like a scene; it was just like a whole bunch of scenes.
Yeah, like a montage.
It was a teaser trailer. It was a full on trailer.
Like, obviously we knew Wanda was going to be in it. We saw a little bit of America Chavez.
Yeah.
We saw Mordo back. So I don't know what's going on in there. But then we saw, and here's a question for Loren, because you haven't seen What If. Is that Doctor Strange, the one from What If?
Good question. I didn't think about that.
Because he looks kind of like him.
Yeah, he does. I knew. I mean, I was like, oh, I wonder what Doctor Strange that is, but I didn't even think about. It would make a lot of sense because Marvel Studios, this is did What If. Yep. I just feel like, why would they have a show about the multiverse without including some of these characters in the live action films? So, because I have a feeling that Captain Carter is coming to the MCU. Like, we're going to see Haley Atwell again as Captain
That'd be cool.
Carter.
That's the one episode I saw, by the way.
Yeah, I think that. So at bare minimum, we're going to see her and others. I'm sure.
That'd be great. We did see, it was very quick, but that tentacle monster thing. We saw that. In there, right?
Yeah.
That was the same one, I think.
It could be.
Again, from What If. Again, this is kind of shows that, like, What If wasn't just let's do a little animated show. Like, it's part
connected
of the MCU.
Glowbug says that it was confirmed that it is Doctor Strange Supreme for What If.
Was
interesting?
If it was, then that's awesome.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Again, then I'm gonna just have to continue to tell people you need to watch What If.
Yeah.
Oh no, I plan. Don't worry, I plan on
it. Because that episode,
not you. At least you're willing to. There's some that are like, I don't
because
know,
it's cartoon. It's the same people who I try to convince to watch Rebels or Clone Wars. I'm like,
it's like
just because it's a cartoon. I don't understand why it's like cartoons animation allows them to tell stories and way cheaper than they could.
Yeah,
live action.
You could pretty much you could do anything.
Like they could not do the stories of What If really, because some of those things go crazy, and I don't know if the actors would totally, do something like that. But like, they were able to tell these little small stories, without having to go through a big budget, like just the Doctor Strange one, for that little half-hour whatever long show would have cost millions upon millions to do.
Yeah, exactly. The zombies.
The zombies. Oh, the zombies one, like, that'd be crazy. We were talking like you had to do like, Lord of the Rings, like level of like just adding thousands and thousands of zombies to a scene for a half-hour show.
Right. Exactly. So it's. Yeah, people need to get over their fear of animation and watch.
It's such a good storytelling animation.
So,
like, if anything, the story of Cowboy Bebop, the live series, versus the animated series to tell you that the animated series is way stronger. Because everyone was like, this is awesome. And then we got the live action one. They're like, it's canceled.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
don't fear
I-
animation. It's not Saturday
Yeah,
morning
you don't-
cartoon. It's not Turbo Teen.
No.
The
They-
boy who
uh,
can
like-
turn into a car.
Yeah, I never got into anime really, but I did watch all of Cowboy Bebop years ago, and I thought it was incredible. And then when they announced they're doing live action, I'm like, why? You don't need to. And then it happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why, because people who don't like animation.
Right.
Yeah.
If they
But-
bring something to
And
Well,
especially anime.
yeah, so
Yeah,
they're trying to bring it to
but-
another audience. The problem is,
It's not always necessary.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not. Like, I mean, would it be cool to get everything Clone Wars and live action? Yeah, but that's not realistic. So
it's a little different.
yeah, it is, but it's not. It's also not necessary. So
It'd be more akin to, I don't even know what it'd be akin to.
bringing DuckTales to live action.
No, because that's still part of like a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop was its own thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So Star Wars is a universe. So there's
Mhm.
multiple ways of telling those stories. Like
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop was its own thing. So I'm trying to think of another animated series or whatever that was its own thing. And maybe it's late and I can't think, but
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Oh, well.
But that's just basically it's like What If you've not seen What If because you're afraid of cartoons,
You don't need to.
go watch What If because the stories are going to have some impact on the MCU.
Yeah. I definitely think so. 'Cause, I mean, like, why create the Guardians of the Multiverse if it's just going to be in a cartoon?
And also,
animated
it's the
series,
last
I-
performance of T'Challa by Chadwick Boseman.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a thing, and his episode is fun. It's a great,
Also,
great episode.
little fun fact. My girlfriend and I recently went to the Bowers Museum, the day before yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and they have a little. It's a really small exhibit, but they had I forgot the name of the exhibit already, but it was essentially just like focused on like a lot of the jewelry that was worn in a lot of movies and some costumes, and they had T'Challa's necklace there.
Nice.
Wow.
That was worn by him. So they had a lot of things. I had pictures. I'll send it to you guys. They had Wanda's rings. They had some cool. I mean, granted, there wasn't a lot, but they had a lot of cool stuff there. They had Loki's horns from Loki from the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had it was. I teared up when I saw T'Challa's necklace there, and I said, "Yeah, worn by Chadwick." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Great, I'm gonna
That's
cry in
amazing.
public right now if I don't hold it back."
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think we can stop here. I think
Yeah.
we can go on and on, but
Yeah, we can keep talking about this
it's late.
endlessly.
It
It's the
is.
latest
I mean,
done one of these, right?
It's good to process after a film.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate people who showed up. Cal, Glowbug27, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you haven't already, we would love it if you would subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications. And, on your way out, if you can like this post, we'd love that. We're hoping that people will watch this in replay once they have seen the film. And anyway, with that, we bid you adieu. Thank you so much for coming, and we will see you later.
Yep. Catch you on the flip side. What am I doing?